Welcome, Gold Derby fans. It's the final countdown to Emmy nominations being announced on July 12th. I'm senior editor Denton Davidson here with my colleagues James Dixon and Daniel Montgomery. And we're going to walk through Gold Derby's final odds heading into Wednesday's nominations, share some of our own predictions, and give a little insight on who could sneak into each race. We're focusing on comedy, variety, and animated series in this episode. So we'll be back with separate episodes for drama categories on Sunday and then movie limited series on Monday. So let's kick things right off with Best Comedy Series, where 8 shows will make the cut. Gold Derby's current odds predict as follows: Ted Lasso, Abbott Elementary, The Bear, Only Murders in the Building, Barry, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, Poker Face, and Shrinking. Just outside the top 8 are Wednesday, What We Do in the Shadows, and Reservoir Dogs. So, Marcus, what do you think about this lineup?
I have all 8 in my lineup, kind of boring. Sorry, everyone. But, I don't really see any of our, 9 through 15 getting in here. It's possible. I mean, there's always shockers every year when we were predicting the Emmy nominations, but I do have that 8. I have a slightly different order, but at the end of the day, I think Ted Lasso is winning this. I think it's a slam dunk. Apple has put a ton of money into this. They've had so many events, at least here in Hollywood, Los Angeles, and I think they're going to go 3 for 3.
Daniel, how about you?
I've got 7 of the 8. I'm skeptical about Shrinking. So instead, I've got What We Do in the Shadows in that spot. It's the show that it's been nominated twice in a row. So I feel like, in a field of 8, when there's some uncertainty, go with an old reliable. I feel like shows like Poker Face may be vulnerable, even though I'm predicting that one. And to win, I think Abbott Elementary has it. I wouldn't call it a slam dunk, but I
It's a
feel
slam
like
dunk.
I feel like Ted Lasso has gotten some less favorable attention this season than it has in previous seasons, and just the acclaim for Abbott Elementary has just gone up as the show has progressed. And again, the Ted Lasso stuff could just be internet stuff, like Game of Thrones won Best Drama Series for its last
Yep.
season. But Game of Thrones didn't have a clear alternative that year. So I feel like with Abbott in the race, depending on how it does in the nominations, I think Abbott's going to win.
I think The Bear has a chance too, though. I don't know if that there's one clear alternative. The issue The Bear has is, of course, is that it's not sort of that laugh out loud funny from start to finish. It's not a traditional comedy. It's sort of a dramedy, and we've seen that those don't do as well in the series races. It doesn't seem to hinder the acting races as much, but in terms of series, that's what The Bear has to overcome. It has had a very popular season 2, which came out right in the prime of nominations voting for the Emmys. So we'll see if it helps its nominations at all. But I do think that has a legitimate shot. I have Ted Lasso still winning. I jumped ship from Ted Lasso last year and I was wrong. I don't want to do that again. And it is the farewell season, maybe. I mean, we don't really have any confirmation on that, but it's hard for me to look away from Ted Lasso at this point. And I also think Wednesday, it's so popular. I mean, it's like the second most watched show on Netflix ever after Stranger Things. So we're gonna find out if that's an Emmys thing, if it's something that those voters are attracted to. I do also think Poker Face could be vulnerable because we have no idea if Peacock can get into this race. They haven't yet. So is Poker Face the big break for Peacock?
And it's
Yeah,
another
we
one
got
of the
burned by Girls Five Eva when that show looked like, that had Tina Fey, it had Sarah Bareilles and Renee Lee Goldsberry, and it seemed like, okay, this is gonna be, the big breakout for Peacock, and then it got like just the one writing nomination, and that's it.
and Poker Face is another one of those dramedies. It's an hour long and there's not a lot of laughs in it. It's more like quirky, dark humor. So, kind of like The Bear, are they going to reward a show that's that unfunny in comedy. I think it'll get nominated. I have it in fifth place. Maybe I should bring it down a little bit, but I have a ton of actors from Poker Face getting in. So either I'm going to be very right or very wrong.
Well, and to Daniel's point, What We Do in the Shadows has been nominated. So there's a lot of people discounting it this year, but it has proven itself in the past. The Emmys do like that show, especially the writing. So that could definitely get in at the expense of Shrinking, Wednesday, or Poker Face. It could really, all of those three could interchange. We could see Wednesday and Shrinking get in, and Poker Face not make it. I mean, it's tough at the bottom of that category. Let's look at Best Comedy Actress. Right now, our odds have, and this one's tough because we only have 5 nominees. It's just, yeah, awful. Because there's just too many good performances. But right now, our odds have Quinta Brunson for Abbott Elementary, Rachel Brosnahan in The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, Christina Applegate for Dead to Me, Natasha Lyonne for Poker Face, and Jenna Ortega for Wednesday. And then right on the cusp, outside of those, are Elle Fanning in The Great, who's been nominated, Selena Gomez, Only Murders in the Building, and then Bridget Everett, one of my sentimental favorites for Somebody Somewhere. Daniel, how do you feel about this category?
I've got the top 4, but I'm the skeptic on Wednesday, just like I am the skeptic on Shrinking. I wonder if it skews too young for the TV Academy. So I've actually got a potential surprise in there. I'm going with Bridget Everett. Somebody Somewhere was airing after Barry this season. So like that was like prime real estate in terms of a time slot for a show that Emmy voters might not have had on their radar beforehand. So, it feels like, she feels like the Pamela Adlon type who gets in for this quirky underdog kind of show.
I would love that. When I interviewed Bridget, and she said their audience was small but mighty. So maybe that small but mighty transfers over to some Emmy voters as well. But I can't overlook Elle Fanning in The Great either, because she's been nominated. So she's someone who has proven herself. I have Jenna Ortega in that 5th slot right now, but I'm very skeptical of that as well. But when you look through like our all-star 24 and our top 24, it's like they all have her in there. And we have really smart readers at Gold Derby. So it's hard to go against 23 of our all-star 24 when they all have someone like that in there. Because I respect their opinions. Even though I like to go my own way, and even though I love Bridget Everett, I don't have her in there quite yet, but I pretty much match up with the top 5 with the order shuffled. How about you, Marcus?
Yeah, when you said small but mighty, I immediately thought of Breaking Bad. That was such a small show in season 1, and Brian still got in and won, even though the show didn't make it that first year. So it's possible. I have Quinta Brunson winning this. And, as much as I love Jean Smart and Hacks, I'm very happy it is not eligible this year, so that we can have a new winner. And then, Hacks can come back next year and win again. But Quinta deserves this. I am rooting for her from the bottom of my soul. And I'm excited to see her also get a nomination for SNL, which we'll talk about later. I mean, this was the year of Quinta Brunson. Second place, I have Natasha Lyonne for Poker Face. But again, like I said earlier, I could be totally overestimating Poker Face here. And then I have Rachel in 3rd. She's won before. Christina Applegate I have in 4th. She has the health story going for her, and this is probably her last acting role. And then Jenna Ortega, I do have in 5th place. I think, like you said earlier, Denton, Wednesday was so incredibly popular that I think even if Wednesday doesn't get in, I think she will get it.
What do you think about the final season of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, which was so well received?
I
could
loved
that push Rachel? Because people always talk about Quinta. Her chances are stronger for writing, which she already won, of course. And
I loved
is that
the final
possible
season.
that Rachel could win again?
After I watched the final season, I put in her and 2 supporting people and I think 2 guest people, and I didn't have any of them in beforehand. I'm just like, oh well, it's out of sight, out of mind, and they're kind of over it. And then it came back in May and reminded me just how good the show is. So I put them all back in.
Well, let's go to comedy actor because we were talking offline a little bit about how this is one of the categories we feel a little more comfortable with. Right now, our overall odds have Jeremy Allen White ahead for The Bear, followed by Jason Sudeikis and Ted Lasso, two-time winner, the last two. Bill Hader for Barry, who's also won for that show in the past. And then we've got Steve Martin and Martin Short for Only Murders in the Building. And it's hard to imagine someone checking their name off on the nominations ballot without checking the other one off. I mean, I feel like those two really come as a pair. So it's hard for me to put one in my top five and not the other. I just can't see a scenario where that happens. And then just outside that top five are Jason Segel for Shrinking, Donald Glover in Atlanta, and Nicholas Hoult in The Great. And then we got Bob Odenkirk for Lucky Hank. He's got another shot here. So Marcus, what are your thoughts on this race?
I loved watching this race at Gold Derby through the months because first Jason Sudeikis was in the lead. Then he was tied with Jeremy. For like a couple weeks, they were dead tied. And now Jeremy has pulled ahead, possibly and most likely because The Bear is airing now, season 2. And some voters will get confused, think they're voting on season 2. But whether they're confused or not, I think that it really helps Jeremy's chances. I have Jason winning this because I did. I last year I predicted Bill Hader instead of Jason, and of course Jason won. So that was something I regretted, and I remember thinking, don't make that mistake again. So I'm not making that mistake again, Jason. I'm predicting you to win your third in a row, and then I actually do have Steve Martin getting in and not Martin Short. So I'm one of those people. Yeah, but wasn't there an award show season 1 where one of them got in and one didn't? Maybe Critics' Choice or Golden Globe. I feel like this has happened before.
So who do you have in?
I don't know if it's happened here, but it's happened to Grace and Frankie. Remember that Lily Tomlin got most of those nominations, and I think Jane Fonda only got in once.
I have Jason Segel in 5th place. Segel for Shrinking.
Yeah, Shrinking is going to be interesting to see how that pans out. Because if the Emmys like a show, they tend to nominate it throughout. That's why Shrinking and Wednesday sort of have the same sort of issues with me. Is like, I just need to know if the Emmy voters like the show enough. Daniel, what do you think about this race?
I've got that top 5 in pretty much the same order. It feels like, I feel like these 5 are quite a bit ahead of everyone else. This is one of those categories where it's a shame that there's no 6th slot, because the 6th slot could have gone to someone interesting. It could have gone to Jason Segel, his first nomination for Shrinking. I don't think he's ever been nominated before in his career. Could have been a farewell nomination for Donald Glover. We could have seen Nicholas Hoult come back. But no, we're only going to get 5 nominees. So I feel like these 5 are pretty much locked. And Jeremy Allen White, I think, is going to win. I feel like it's the hot new show. He's the Donald Glover first season of Atlanta, Bill Hader first season of Barry, Jeffrey Tambor first season of Transparent. Like the people who just like come out strong with a slightly dramatic skewing show and really kind of take over the conversation. So I've got Jeremy Allen White winning this.
I just did a little research. Critics' Choice Awards 2023 this year. Steve Martin got in, Martin Short did not, and they actually had 6 nominees. And Jeremy Allen White won.
And Jeremy Allen White also won the SAG Award. And, that's not always an easy feat for someone who's lesser known than a lot of his competitors. Those SAG voters, like they're legends. So,
especially on a new show, because it sometimes takes voters a year or two at the SAG Awards, because SAG is such a huge body of voters, and even the nominating committee is thousands of people. So it sometimes takes them a while to catch on to a new show, but here they caught on right away.
Yeah. So Jason Sudeikis, 2-time defending champion, versus Jeremy Allen White, who's won everything this year. It's going to be a good race. Comedy supporting actress. Okay, so now the field extends a little bit. We get 7 in this one. Right now we have Cheryl Lee Ralph, Abbott Elementary, who won last year, of course. Former winner Hannah Waddingham for Ted Lasso, Janelle James, Abbott Elementary, Ayo Edebiri for The Bear, former winner Alex Borstein for The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, Juno Temple for Ted Lasso, and Sarah Goldberg for Barry. Just on the cusp, we have Lisa Ann Walter in Abbott Elementary, Jessica Williams Shrinking, and Cicely Strong for Saturday Night Live. Daniel, what's going on?
I have the top 6 of these 7 that are in our odds. The one difference I have is I have Sarah Goldberg getting snubbed again, like she was last season, in favor of what I'm predicting will be an expansion for Abbott Elementary. I've got Lisa Ann Walter coming into this race for the first time after it was just the 2 nominees for Abbott Elementary last year. I have all 3 supporting women getting in. Yeah, I've got Ayo Edebiri winning. It's a hunch I'm playing that because this is the category that last year was so divided between 3 people and then the 4th person got it. That's Ayo this year. The category is no less close than it was last year, even though we have a defending champion, Cheryl Lee Ralph. I'm not confident that she's the kind of actress who necessarily, sweeps again. She was a surprise the first time. They could go with her co-star this time. They could go back to Hannah Waddingham this time. It could go any number of ways.
I think people need to remember that Cheryl Lee Ralph in our odds going into last year's Emmys was 4th or 5th. I can't remember exactly, but no one was really thinking she was going to win, or very few people at least. And people that watch Shrinking love Jessica Williams. So she could sneak in there if that's a show that Emmy voters really love. The other one I'm curious about is Cicely Strong in Saturday Night Live, because it is her farewell season. So are they going to have any sentimental feelings about her? She was on the show for a very long time. Do they feel that same way about her? She has been nominated before. So is she another one who could just get in on her legacy and her name recognition? Marcus, what do you think?
I remember last year talking in a slugfest or just privately about how if I was a voter, I'd vote for Cheryl Lee Ralph, but she's probably not going to win. And I was so happy when she won. I couldn't believe it. I don't know. I'm not predicting her again this year because I do think Lisa Ann Walter will get in. And with the 3 nominees, it could add this potential vote split that we love to talk about. Just like last year, Hannah Waddingham and Juno Temple were joined by Sarah Niles, and that the addition of Sarah Niles possibly, was one of the reasons that Hannah lost. So I'm going with Hannah Waddingham. With only, 2 Ted Lasso people here, her and Juno, I think she could pull it off. And if I'm wrong, I have Cheryl Lee Ralph in 2nd, Janelle James in 3rd, and then Ayo I have in 4th. And you're both right. Jessica Williams is so fantastic. And at the Gold Derby Awards, I voted for her as one of my 3 nominees.
Well, that'll be interesting to see how that comes about. In comedy supporting actor, our odds have Tyler James Williams for Abbott Elementary, Brett Goldstein for Ted Lasso, Henry Winkler Barry, Anthony Kerrigan Barry, Harrison Ford Shrinking, Tony Shalhoub, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, and Eben Mas Bachrach for The Bear. I agree with these nominees. I have them in a completely different order, but that's where I'm sitting. And right outside are a couple of Ted Lassos, Phil Dunster and Nick Mohammed. And then Bowen Yang, he's been nominated the past few years. So what is going on with Bowen Yang? Why is he sitting in 10th, Marcus? You're our SNL guy.
It's a really tough category. I don't have Bowen getting in. I wish I could put him in my picks. There's no room. Just like supporting actress, I want to put Ego Wodum in there. There's no room. But this is one category where I'm going on my own for who will win. I have Anthony Kerrigan for Barry winning this. And I mentioned last week in another slugfest, the reason I'm predicting him is because of that SAG Award nomination. There's a lot of overlap between SAG and the Emmys. And the fact that he got in as a nominee with only 5 slots, and it's supportings and leads combined, tells me there's so much love for this guy. And that was before the final season aired. He was amazing in the final season. And everyone always likes to say that Barry is a very dark comedy or even a drama. But Anthony Carrigan is the one funny character consistently. And we know they love voting for funny people. And he's the funniest from Barry by far in this category. I have Brett Goldstein in second. He's already won twice, and why not a third? And then Tyler James Williams, I have him in third place. But down in seventh, I have Phil Dunster. So it's possible. He had a really good season.
Daniel.
Yeah, this category is confusing me. I've got 6 of the top 7, and you're probably going to think I'm crazy that the one I have out is Harrison Ford. For Shrinking. It's one of those, I feel like it's going to be feast or famine for Shrinking. Either they're watching it and it gets in series, Siegel, Ford, maybe writing, casting, Jessica Williams, or they're not watching it and it's just doesn't show up. I don't know yet. But I'm betting that Ted Lasso is going to be the Apple TV Plus show. That's really where all the muscle is. And instead of him, I've got Chris Perfetti getting in for Abbott Elementary. Again, I'm predicting that show will expand in nominations. I feel like we're going to get almost the whole supporting cast in there. I've got Tyler James Williams winning. I'm not confident about that yet. This category likes actors who go big. This is where your Sean Hayes wins, your Eric Stonestreet, Ty Burrell, the scene stealer kind of actors. And Tyler James Williams is a very subtle performer on this show. Although you could say the same for Cheryl Lee Ralph, who won last year. So, there's that in his favor. So for the time being, I've got Taylor James Williams. I do think Anthony Carrigan could do it again. I do think Brett Goldstein could easily do it again because there's a good chance he's going to have much less internal competition from his own show. I don't think the Ted Lasso is going to get 3 or 4 nominees in this category again. Right now, he's the only Ted Lasso actor I have in there, which worries me. I might want to put Phil Dunster in there, but who do I replace? Tony Shalhoub? Do I replace Eben Moss-Bacharach? There are a good 12 people who I think could reasonably get into the 7.
Well, and the Emmys do that. It's and you do sort of, if you bet on a series, you have to sort of bet on it across the board or take it out across the board. So it makes things really difficult. It'll be interesting to see how the new voting rules impact this year's race. We've discussed this before, but they used to be able to just check off as many nominees as they wanted. That's why something like 7 of 8 supporting actresses last year came from The White Lotus or something like that. So this year they get to pick the exact number of nominees in each category, correct? So if there's 7 nominees, they get to pick 7, their favorite 7. So it either will lead to them voting for everyone from their favorite show even more, or they'll spread the wealth a little more. I think it's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out. But down into comedy guest actress, where they get 6 nominees. So there's more nominees for guest actress than lead, which is interesting, and supporting. Mm-hmm. But we have Taraji P. Henson for Abbott Elementary, Quinta Brunson, Saturday Night Live, Shirley MacLaine, Only Murders in the Building, Cherry Jones, Poker Face, Judith Light, Poker Face, Harriet Walter, Ted Lasso, and Ayo Edebiri in Abbott Elementary. So, Daniel, what do you think about this?
I could have this category almost entirely wrong. The only one I'm confident in is Taraji P. Henson, who I have in first place. I've got Cherry Jones in second place for Poker Face because she's Cherry Jones. And I think enough people are watching Poker Face that even if the rest of the show gets snubbed, she gets in. She's actually the only Poker Face actor I have in this category getting nominated. Judith Light is not your automatic kind of name check kind of actor at the primetime Emmys, and I think voters are going to have a tough time deciding between Poker Face actors, and we might see less of them than they would like.
What do you think, Marcus?
I was predicting Taraji to win this before I saw her episode of Abbott, and after I saw her episode of Abbott, I go, "Oh yeah, I'm right." Like it's such a standout, memorable role. She plays Quinta's mother, and she's been nominated 3 times at the Emmys. She's been nominated for an Oscar. She doesn't win a lot. She did win a Globe, of course, but I think it's her time. And in second place, I have Judith Light for Poker Face. I made a change this morning. I had Cherry Jones for Poker Face, but her character is just really very dramatic. And so I took her out and I put in Harriet Walter. So I also have Sarah Niles. I have 2 guest actresses here from Ted Lasso. And then I have Quinta Gideon for SNL. So it'll be fun to see Taraji and Quinta in the same category, mother and daughter from Abbott.
Yeah, I have actually Taraji winning as well. I do have Judith Light getting in. And I put Harry Walter and Sarah Niles in from Ted Lasso. I just feel like there could be a little extra farewell love for that series. So again, this category is all over the place. Molly Shannon for Saturday Night Live, she was great. Jane Lynch for Only Murders in the Building. Hong Chow, Poker Face, she was fantastic. So this is a deep category. A personal favorite of mine who's not near the top was Keke Palmer in Saturday Night Live. She was my favorite host last season. I thought she was hilarious. I loved when she was doing that soap opera fight scene. But let's go down to comedy guest actor because we're running low on time. We've got Nathan Lane, Only Murders in the Building, Steve Martin and Martin Short, weird duo combination for Saturday Night Live, Luke Kirby, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, Pedro Pascal, Saturday Night Live, Leslie Odom Jr. for Abbott Elementary, and Adrian Brody for Poker Face. And then on the outskirts, we have Dave Chappelle, SNL, John Bernthal, The Bear, and Oliver Platt, The Bear. Daniel, how do you feel about this one?
I feel like the Bear is gonna come on strong, so I've got both of those Bear actors in there, along with 4 of our predicted nominees. I've got Steve Martin and Martin Short winning for Saturday Night Live because fans of Only Murders in the Building and their hosting on Saturday Night Live are gonna vote for them here because they know they can only pick one of them for at most for best comedy actor. Then I've got Luke Kirby. I never bet against him getting nominated for Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Nathan Lane, defending champ. Leslie Odom Jr., Abbott Elementary is going to be a darling, I think, and he's a really well-known, Tony-winning Oscar. So,
and Marcus,
I'm going with the Martins. I mean, the last time we had a duo in any acting category, it was Amy and Tina for SNL, and they won. Second place, I have last year's winner, Nathan Lane. Hank Azaria for Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. I have him in third. I think that if Maisel's going to get one guest acting category, it's going to be Hank Azaria. They absolutely love him at the Emmys, and his episode, he sang in it. He was just so good. And the other one I have that the Emmy that our predictions don't have is Dave Chappelle. Because he doesn't he win every time he hosts?
Yeah, I have that in too. I'm very confused about why he's so far down in our odds. He has a very good track record with the Emmys.
Mm-hmm. Could be that people think the bloom is off the rose since he courted controversy with kind of siding with against trans community. We'll see if that matters because he still won a Grammy after that. So
the more I try to focus on controversy, the more I'm proven wrong. I feel like people shrouded in controversy, it does not affect them as much as Twitter and online and pundits seem to think it will. So we'll find out what happens. But we're going to just go through these next couple real fast. Variety talk series. So best variety talk series. So Last Week Tonight with John Oliver has been forced into another category. So the 7-time defending champ is out. In fact, it's the only show that's won this category other than The Daily Show with Jon Stewart, which won at one time the first year the category was introduced in 2015. So what will take its place as the winner this year? I've got The Late Show with Stephen Colbert coming up to take that crown. And then we've got The Daily Show with Trevor Noah, Jimmy Kimmel Live, Late Night with Seth Meyers, and The Problem with Jon Stewart. Is there enough love for Jon Stewart for him to come back?
I'm predicting Jon Stewart to win just
Okay.
because it's Jon Stewart. I mean, he every time he interviews anyone, it goes viral on Instagram and Twitter and all of that. They absolutely love him. But second place, I have Stephen Colbert. I think it's going to be one of those two.
I've
Yeah.
got Stephen Colbert winning this. Jon Stewart, when the problem was in a different category, he couldn't win that one. So I'm not sure that he's as indomitable here. So I'm going with Stephen Colbert.
And then variety scripted series. Now that Last Week Tonight with John Oliver has moved, it is leading this race, which has been won by Saturday Night Live for quite a few years. And then Black Lady Sketch Show. There's 3 nominees in this category. I think most people are really confident. I mean, the odds have those 3 out way in front. And then right outside are History of the World Part 2 and Inside Amy Schumer. But we're all pretty confident in those 3. Does anyone dissent?
Yeah, I've got those 3. Do you guys have SNL winning or John Oliver? I have John Oliver.
I have John Oliver winning pretty easily. One always wins the PGA award, always wins the writing award over SNL. So,
yeah, I have John Oliver as well. Also because SNL it's going through sort of a cast shift.
Yeah.
It's not an election year, so it's just not as hot as it has been in some years. And then finally for this episode, we'll go through animated program. Leading our odds are The Simpsons, Bob's Burgers, Big Mouth, Intergalactic, and Harley Quinn. And then you've got Primal, Rick and Morty, and Archer on the outskirts. I've actually got Primal winning. I think maybe not everyone maybe watches the show, but it won last year. So maybe people forgot. So it's not even predicted to be nominated, which I find interesting. And then I've got The Simpsons, Bob's Burgers, Big Mouth, and Intergalactic. Daniel, what about you?
I've got Primal to win. It did surprise us last time. And then I've got Bob's Burgers, The Simpsons, Big Mouth, and Intergalactic. I'm always wary of predicting anything new to come into this category because this is a category that's usually cast in stone. But yeah, so I've got Intergalactic breaking through.
And Marcus?
I have The Simpsons winning. I believe they've submitted a Treehouse of Horror episode. And, how can you vote against The Simpsons? And I do have Primal getting nominated. And I have a feeling after people watch this and they hear that all 3 of us have getting nominated and you 2 predicting it to win, that Primal's odds are going to shoot up. I think maybe people forgot that, the Emmys absolutely love this show. I'm a little confused why it's down so low.
Well, we'll see. Like we said, the nominations come on July 12th, and then we'll have lots of follow-up after that. We'll be discussing in other podcasts the drama series, and then in a separate one, Movie Unlimited, coming up. So watch out for those. And also watch out for our Gold Derby Award nominations coming out on Tuesday, July 11th. That'll be exciting. So anyway, stay tuned.